So this is, I'm going to put together a test circuit because previously I was using this breadboard, and honestly there are problems with breadboards, so I'm going to wire it all together. One of the little tools that I've made are these little ends which you can just break. You get them with Arduinos. They're nothing, but the really good part about it is that they fit straight into a servo connector. So I'm going to solder these on the various spots, and I'm going to have a hopefully an error-free trial. So I've got on here the input from a 11-volt LiPo, and I've got here this reducer which takes it down to 4.5, so I've got two different runs here that I can use, and so I'm going to wire it up. And here, where the turning motor is, if I just pull that off, I've now also made a tray that's going to fit all of my electronics. So as you can see, I'm using Perspex, and I'm screwing these together with these tiny little threaded screws. The intention will be, once all of this is working and I've got it wired up and everything's going to be in place, I'm going to just put the acrylic glue into all of those components, and I'll take those screws out. The other thing that I've done is I've got this bit of plastic that I've bent that piece of acrylic. I'll also stick some glue behind there and on there, and this is going to be glued to the base of the boat, so I can just unscrew that, pull all of this out. I love this stuff, works really well, and I'm going to get a lot of gear just sitting in there. And the other thing that I had to do was make sure that the contraption for the guns actually fit alongside them. So that all works. I'm pretty happy with that. So I might now just proceed to the finishing and painting and putting everything else in place, because I've done the majority of the work. Alright, I want to put lights in here, and I've made two of these. The other one's sitting in there at the moment. Curved pieces of Perspex, perfect for lights because they'll shine through. And I want to put them on around about that level and have lights both up and below like that running along. And I've just cut this piece of plastic, which I think will sit in the bow and give me a little base for that to sit on, maybe like that. And this can be screwed into a little section just onto there. So I've got one sitting in there right now, and I can put another piece across the top and screw them down, and it won't take much. We just have to gently hold them in place, because they're just going to be holding very light LEDs. So I've got 40 or to 50 LEDs on order, cost about $6, and I'm going to put them in groups of 3, because 3 will take up around about 9 volts, and I'm going to have a number of those little groups of 3. I'm expecting to get about, I think it's about 7 to 9 along here, and same on that side, and something similar along the stern. I'm really struggling to do this, so this is desperation. It's a little bit of rod holding a little stand at the far end, which will hold my LED holders. I can think of no way of getting all of this to work, but I'm trying. Surprisingly enough, it seems to be working. The other row of portholes are above that, and that's just sitting on top of that piece of plastic in there that you can barely see. And this side is on there, which I just need to screw it to very lightly, and I've got something that's going to work. The other one is in here, but I've got some problems with spacing. So I've just glued the bridge on, and you can see under here my wires so far. I'm using green for 9 volts in, I'm using blue for earth, and I'm using yellow to go between 4 different LCDs. And currently I've got, and I'm very pleased with this, I've got a little red one in here, a green one in here, and that's linked to 2 others in there which are providing the lights for those up there. And now I've got 2 more, and I need to connect them to 2 more in here, and then that's going to become an outlet, because that'll be a group of 4 in parallel. And then I'm going to put another group of 4 in there, and that's going to be my lighting for this top section. Gee, I just spent an hour realizing that if you put 4 LEDs on one of these lines, you get absolutely nothing. But if you put 3 on, you get it all working. Now, as you can see, I make a real mess when I do this. I'm using hot glue to hold these in place. It looks like a spider's crawled through all of this, but you don't see it when the boat's put together, so I don't care. And a lot of people don't operate like that. Well, you know, that's fine. This should be pretty lovely. Oh wow, I've got to seal the gap between the upper and the lower bridge. That's easy enough with a little bit of aluminium foil, but it's even lit up down there quite nicely. Oh, that is so nice. I love this. So I'm pretty pleased with this. There's some little cracks where the light gets up, but that light is nicely bright, and I think the balance between this and the rest of the other lights is good. I'm happy with that, really. That'll be lovely. This is fun. These are the 2 sides of the bow, and I've got these at 6.5mm intervals. One's up, one's down because of the portholes, and I'm going to solder them up in groups of 3 on either side, and then slide them in, and that will be spectacular. So these are the shelves that run on the inside for the stern portholes. I've just hot glued them in place, and I'm going to wire them up in groups of 3, obviously, for a 9-volt battery, and also have a resistor in series. So each of these will be in series, 2 lots of 3 in series, and then they're going to be in parallel. And I've done that right the way through this. Quite fun. Alright, I've got it all wired up, and you can see I've done it absolutely beautifully. As you will be aware from other stuff that I've done, if I figure people can't see it, I don't care what it looks like. But there we have it. That's pretty nice. And they will now fit alongside there. I've made some little brackets, and that large bracket at the end to be the holders, and there's a screw in this one. Alright, so as you can see, I've put both of the speed controllers in. I've got a nice little thing that joins them together. I've joined the radio inputs together, and it's all ready to go now. I've had to set them to forward and reverse, in the system, and what I did right at the end was I reduced the throw of the throttle to 50%, and even then this thing's a bit too fast. Let's see. That thing's going to plane that at 50%. So I think I might reduce it to 40%. But that's all good. Obviously I haven't connected the props, but I will do that now. So really, apart from wiring up these servos, which are already in place under the guns, it's all almost ready to go with the code. But I've just got some trouble with it. I can't get the guns to run together without becoming quite jerky. So I've got a little bit of work to do, and I've got a bit of help from a couple of friends as well. So we'll get that going nicely, and then I can wire it all up, and it's going to be as tight as a drum in this boat, which is the way, of course, I like it. I mean, I am a submariner. So we've been proceeding along, and this contraption now fits in here. I think you've seen that already, and it screws into the base, into the keel. So what we have here is the input from the LiPo. That goes straight through a fuse, and from there it powers up a 6-volt relay, and all of the main power will go through the relay. But I'll have a little bit that breaks off, comes through here, goes out there and goes to the switch, so that the on-off switch is taking the 11.8 volts, but it's not, there's no current load on it at all. It just turns the relay on and off, and the relay then powers up, and this is the outlet now to the motors and to the ESC. So I've got 3 little wires up here. I've got 9.2, isn't it? I've got 4.8 here because I have this little reducer thing in here, and we've got the earth. So everything's going to be built around that, and the Arduino sits on top. I've just looked at that. That's very nice. I'll put something under it, and I can easily get my computer into that. And I'm thinking at the moment I might have 2. That's the reason I've got 2 here, because it's causing the brain's trust some difficulty to think about how to get all of these components working, maybe without 2. That's where we're up to.